Good morning. Welcome to the live stream. Today is Saturday, May 23rd. How's it going? My name is Angela. I'm a front-end developer and software engineer in St. Paul, Minnesota. On this channel, we just practice vanilla. I bumped my camera. I'm checking to make sure that it looks okay. I think everything looks okay. Sometimes things get a little off kilter. How's it going? We are working on a brand new project called, I don't even have my design files pulled up yet. Oh yes, I was having a conversation with ChatGPT that I want to share with you. First, let's get our design files pulled up. Completely forgot. How's it going, everyone? I see that Malik Robinson is here in the chat. Welcome, Malik. Malik is the mod. He set a personal, I don't know how to explain it. He's got a streak going for the number of streams that he attends. I'm obviously incredibly grateful for that, because the mods freely give up their time to watch over things. And Malik keeps an eye on all of us. He keeps an eye on me. He keeps an eye on you. He keeps an eye on all of us. Okay, and I'm grateful to have him here. Maybe this is also a good time to ask people to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new here. I'd love to have you. I stream Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, generally around 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, give or take, mostly give. Like today, because I'm almost always late by a few minutes. Hey, what can I say? There's no HR department here. There's nobody threatening me with my job if I'm late, right? So there's that. Anyways, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm here 4 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. And we just build stuff. We just do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, vanilla front-end development. That's what I love to do. So that's what I love to practice. And I bring you along for the ride. I mean, it's getting harder to not talk about AI, which is actually kind of interesting, isn't it? Because let's chat for a minute about AI, because I actually do have something here that I want to share, a conversation that I had with ChatGPT, but it's getting harder and harder on YouTube to talk about anything development related and not talk about AI, which is pretty interesting, right? I certainly don't consider myself as being somebody who is in denial about AI. I use ChatGPT all the time. I don't love using AI for coding because I still enjoy the process of coding. I have yet to work for anybody, any client or any employer who insisted that I used AI for anything. In fact, my last employer, the University of St. Thomas, my boss was very pro AI and LLMs and ChatGPT. We loved using it. We could speed up the process. We could get work done faster. It was great, but we have people on the team who don't use it, who have like an ethical dilemma with it. And she didn't force anybody to use it as long as the work was getting done. And my experience with everybody that I freelance for, all of my clients, is that people are aware of it. Nobody is completely changing over their business or their infrastructure to be where they're replacing developers. I know that that's happening. I'm not naive, and I hear the stories. I know that's happening, but I personally am not seeing that happening. I'm seeing it being used as a tool to get more done faster, quicker. So when I talk about that as what I think the future of AI is, it's because that's my experience. It's not because I'm trying to predict the future or I actually know what's going to happen. Nobody does. And my point is that as much as I dislike using AI to just write code for me, I am very pro AI. It is no better thing has explained development concepts to me than AI. ChatGPT is solely responsible for doing the best job of any entity ever of explaining JavaScript to me. Now, I get some credit because I ask AI questions. I ask ChatGPT questions like, hey, help me understand this, or give me a challenge. And now I've gone down this whole road of practicing, right? I'm sure that you've seen, I'm releasing videos nearly every single day of me just practicing JavaScript. I mean, it is such an amazing use of AI, but I'm not letting it do the work for me because I still enjoy that process. And I personally have not experienced anything or been in any situation where the company or the organization or the client that I worked for insisted that AI take over and do the work. I don't know how much of the future that's going to be. I have people in my comments telling me, oh, if you're not using AI to write the majority of the code, you will be left behind. Really? First of all, I do not consent to being left behind. Therefore, I will not be left behind. You can unsubscribe, you can stop watching. I'll still be here. I'll still be writing my for each loops and mapping data. I do not consent to being left behind, and I personally don't believe that that will happen. I see no evidence of that. We can listen to people like Kyle Cook and Brad Traversy say, yeah, we have to make a change. Development is changing. We have to change with it. And I believe them. They're credible sources of information, and I pay attention when they say things like that. But they don't know the future either. How many times over the last 2.5 years have we all heard, software engineers, developers, your job won't exist in 6 months? How many times have we heard that? Still hasn't happened. So I don't know what I don't know what the question is anymore, and I don't know what the answer is anymore. But it's an interesting conversation, and I've gone from fearing the comments to just it's not that I don't care about the comments, because most of the comments are so supportive when I make my predictions or talk about what I'm thinking. But I do get those outliers of you will be left behind, or you don't know what you're talking about, or it doesn't. I had one comment that was like, it doesn't even matter. Your code is so mediocre anyways. I can run circles around you. So what's the point of even worrying about it? Okay, that's fine. You're just being snarky. I get it. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that they're interesting questions. And for anybody who says, oh, you're not keeping up, you're going to be left behind, I don't know how you could possibly say that. I use it all the time. It is literally no one, it's not a person, but no one has ever done a better job patiently explaining things to me than ChatGPT. I mean, it is the thing that has single-handedly moved me forward in my career. Before I really got on the ChatGPT bandwagon, I remember very clearly having these conversations with my boss in my one-on-ones at St. Thomas, saying, because I was moving into like a leadership role, a management role, and I was like, I think I'm just too tired, right? Like, I don't think that my brain can do the learning anymore. I think I'm just tired. I think I need to like move on and do something different. I think that management is like the next natural step, because I just feel like I can't do the deep learning anymore. And then I discovered ChatGPT, and it just made everything fun and interesting again. It made it so I could understand things, because I had somewhere to go where I could ask questions. And it wasn't another human being saying, oh, ask me anything, anytime, and then you do, and they're annoyed because you dared ask. How many times has that happened to you? It happens to me all the time, which is why I never ask people questions. It saves you the stress of spending hours searching Stack Overflow. God forbid you actually have to ask a question, the responses that you'll get. Or the trouble of just reading documentation that reads like a set of stereo instructions that you have to deconstruct and figure out for yourself. I mean, yes, of course it's possible. How many of us are self-taught developers? We did it. We figured it out. We suffered through. We read the docs. We asked questions, even when people were annoyed that we were asking the questions. ChatGPT removed all of those barriers, all of that stress. We love it. We all love it. That doesn't mean that we want to not actually write code anymore. So I don't know what the answer is. I hope that's not the direction that it goes, though. I hope that it continues to be a tool that makes us faster and better. And yes, fewer developers will be required to do the work. But I don't want to not write code anymore. I don't. And if that means that I refuse to say that I will be left behind because I do not consent to being left behind. But if that means that I can't get the same jobs that the developers who turn their code over to an LLM, if that means that I'm not going to get the same opportunities as them, I mean, okay, there's lots of ways to make money in this world. There just are. And luckily, I can live pretty cheap and still have a comfortable life. But I refuse to be left behind. I do not consent to being left behind. I will still be here writing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'm just not stopping. So I don't know. These are just things that I've been thinking about. And this is how I get it off my chest, I guess. So Caffeine Cowboy is here. Good morning, Caffeine Cowboy. Clash of Clans Legend is also here. How are you? I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for asking. What are you doing? Besides talking? Besides ranting? Okay. So we're going to work on... Thank you for listening, by the way. If you haven't all abandoned me yet, I appreciate you. So we're going to start working today. We're going to write the CSS for this little beauty. So on Thursday, we wrote pretty much the majority of the HTML to support the structure for this. Is my camera? I think the camera is okay. To support the structure for this. So really think of, hang on, can we zoom? So think of like our navigation, this area up here as our header, right? All of this we wrote the HTML for. These inner sort of modules and little UI elements and data, whatchamacallits, these are going to come later. Right now, the focus is that we build the structure, the infrastructure, so we can kind of work on this dashboard throughout the rest of the year. That's really my plan for 2026, is that we're going to work on a few elements, doing a lot of work with APIs and data, transforming data, rendering, right? Making it look like this little fun dashboard project. Then we're going to go off and work on something else, and then we're going to come back. Because I really want to build this out, but I don't want to spend the next 6 months only working on this. So I feel like this is going to be a really good balance. So in order to really get started doing that, we have to sort of build this structure, right? And figure out how we're structuring this site, kind of like the 30 days of vanilla JavaScript, where we structurally built out how we can support those 30 pages, those 30 projects. But we're going to sort of revisit it every couple of weeks just to keep things fresh and to, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm thinking more and more about how I can turn my streams into other content for the channel, right? How I can take these streams and edit them into little mini projects. And initially I was doing that with entire builds. Well, those builds were turning out to be 10, 11, 12 hours long, and they got views. A lot of those got views, but that's too long. I think the better approach is to break some of these big projects down into something that maybe takes a week or 10 days worth of streaming, not actual days, and then break those down into little more isolated mini projects. I think it's easier than, stream part 22, right? I just think that's too much. So that's the direction that I'm going. That's my thinking here and why I chose this. Plus, I'm just super into JavaScript, transforming data, rendering to the DOM. I love working with data. I love it. Telling ChatGPT, give me some data, give me some requirements, tell me what to do, using reduce, using map. isolating the transform and the render. Although the last two videos that I did, or the video that's going to be posted tomorrow and then the video that I posted today, we didn't even use for each. We just did all of the render inside of the map, and I had never done that before. It never even occurred to me that you could do that. So that was fun and interesting. I enjoyed that. And I want to keep those skills fresh. And I'm just super into that. And I feel like a dashboard is the best UI to kind of support that direction right now, if that makes sense. So, and Zokiel says, hello and hi everyone. Just finished my HTML course. Let me hang on here. I have to pop out my chat. Just finished my HTML course. Certainly review your code when I finish the other courses, CSS and JavaScript, to learn more about your work. Really appreciate seeing you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Andrew Irwin is here. Good morning, Andrew. How are you? Andrew found me, I think, maybe about 2 weeks ago. You guys, I have one video that actually got more than 1,000 views. I mean, do you know how many videos that I have that even got 1,000 views? Not very many. I think you can count on one hand, but this one actually did pretty well. I think we're at about 5,200 views, which I've never had that many before. And Andrew found me through that and is generously sponsoring me through GitHub sponsorships. We've exchanged a couple of emails. And has just left me so many really kind, thoughtful comments. And we're talking about maybe doing a collab of some sort. So Andrew posed the question and I'm all for it. So I think we're going to have a few conversations about that and see what we come up with. And yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out on the stream. I really appreciate it. So, okay. Well, should we get started? Let me tell you what I was chatting with ChatGPT about this morning. Let me get these in the correct order. Because I am very much aware of the fact that the longer the builds get, the messier the CSS gets. And so I genuinely did not know the answer to this question. So I asked ChatGPT, can vanilla CSS files be imported into one CSS file like JavaScript type module files? Yes, native CSS has had at import forever. And modern CSS also has some newer composition patterns. So here's the classic way. Genuinely didn't know that. I mean, I know about at import from Sass. Is it just because I've been using Sass for such a long time and then I switched from Sass to vanilla and I didn't bother to ask? That's the reason why, right? So yes, we can do at import and then load one file. But we go on to say, that said, there are some trade-offs. So at import is simple and native. It's good for small projects, organization, no build step, which we do not have a build step. But historically, at import could delay style sheet loading. Browsers got better, but multiple imports still aren't always ideal for performance. Interesting. Multiple link tags, my favorite for static sites. Browser downloads in parallel. This is surprisingly underrated for static sites. So I'm actually good with this too. But I think there is one other thing. We are not going to do a build step because this is a vanilla channel and I'm not doing a build step because I have no issue with build steps. I personally am a lover of Grunt. Do people still use Grunt? I love Grunt. But the niche here is vanilla, no node, no build steps. So it's just what I'm doing here. So that's an out. But here, I think this looks promising. Modern CSS at layer. This feels very aligned with how you think. You can import and control cascade order. So we do the at import. I noticed that so the classic way, we are prepending URL at import URL. This does not prepend URL. I wonder why. So it's URL parentheses. We should ask about that. And then we have this at layer where you can say what the layers are or the order. That gives explicit cascade control without specificity wars. Since I know you've been leaning toward vanilla, ChatGPT has no sense of time, which I find interesting. Since I know you've been leaning toward vanilla CSS and talking about moving away from SCSS like a year ago, at layer and CSS variables is probably worth experimenting with. It gives some of that organization feeling without introducing a preprocessor. One tiny gotcha with native at import. Imports must come first in the CSS file before normal rules except char set and layer. So I'm open to this. I just want to clarify this first. So this example uses URL, but not your other examples. That was inconsistent on, okay. Is it just me? Okay, that was inconsistent on my part, and we're going to turn everything over to the LLMs. Like, we're ready to do that. It makes mistakes all the time. Both are valid. These are equivalent. Which is not even a mistake, but just the fact that it's inconsistent. Reliably inconsistent. The URL wrapper is optional in CSS imports. You'll also see just this, all three work. So without the relative, without that. The reason URL appears in examples is mostly historical and because URL is also used elsewhere in CSS. For modern CSS, I usually write imports without URL because it's shorter. One other thing you might appreciate, at import supports additional conditions. So it ended up becoming more than just load another file. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I am open to this and I want to do this. I'm not ready to sit and just start creating extra files and this layer rule. So what I would like to do is just start writing CSS, and when we have some CSS written, then I would like to break things down. So maybe tomorrow. For today, I just want to start writing CSS, but we are probably going to do something like this. So we have our HTML ready to go. For the most part. And this is the best part, I think. Just a blank canvas and some markup. I just think it's the best part. I like it. I did notice earlier this morning when there is one thing that I noticed that I'm not sure about. So we have this, so the navigation, can we collapse some of these things? So here's our menu button. We also need, I forgot an ARIA label. So ARIA expanded. I was looking at this and I was like, oh, you forgot ARIA expanded, which is by default false. And then we'll just use JavaScript. So when that menu is open, we change it to true. But this button is like nowhere near the menu. Why is that a problem? Well, Let me tell you why it's a problem. So we have all of these things. Then we have the main header. Here's like the middle header. Here's our lower header. And then we have our navigation way down here. So when we click this button, generally when you're doing keyboard focus, when you're tabbing through, you land on the button, you hit enter, you open the navigation. The focus then needs to go into the navigation, but look how far away it is. That is not ideal. Yeah, that's not ideal. We also have ARIA controls, so let's make sure that the nav has an ID to match that up. What was it? Main nav. So we either need to we might have to move some things around here to make sure that that is supported. Because really, this is the navigation here, obviously. It comes in the DOM after this. So this is coming way before it. So that makes me think we just need to reposition the navigation, which I think is fine. I do want this to be exposed on desktop, but obviously hidden on mobile, and then you click this button to open it. But it might be better if this button is actually not in this header and it's actually here instead. So maybe we swap these two things. I'm not even clear on what exactly this little thing is supposed to be doing. I didn't dig that deep into the mock-up, but it might be better if we swap these two things and reposition the nav element. Also, ideally, the nav element would be a sibling of this. Well, it is. It is a sibling of that, right? So it's a sibling of both of these things. This is the middle header. This is the lower header with the breadcrumbs. It's a sibling of both of these things. Ideally, it would be a sibling of all of these things. So we could use grid, right? One on the left, one on the right. And then making sure that button is coming immediately before the navigation. So when it gets focus, you activate it. But we don't need the button to show on desktop also, right? The button doesn't need to show on desktop if it's always exposed on desktop. See, this is sometimes the problem with mock-ups, is they just show everything. And you have to sit and decide what's actually happening here. So this does make me want to, I don't want to do this after we do the styles. We have to, and I didn't think about this. So I don't think I want this inside this main header. I really want it to be a sibling of, it would make more sense if it was a sibling of the header. It's going to be easier with grid to get it on the left. But also we have this top header and we have our logo. And then this was like this little settings cog. Because wouldn't we want these things, all of these things to be in their own container on the left, and then all of these things to be in their own container on the right? Think how easy it would be to position those things with grid, which makes me feel like they should both be in the header, the navigation, and all of these things should be in the header. The header is the parent container that's display grid. And then all of these things are in their own container, and all of these things are in their own container. Which means that navigation would come first, which is totally fine because we can put in a skip nav button too. Yeah, we can put in a skip nav button so we don't have to force people to go through the navigation. And that would actually be good because we could have the logo first, then our mobile button, then our navigation. All those things would come first, meaning they would be on the left, and then everything else would be on the right, right? Yes. So, okay, let's rework this. I'm really glad I noticed this morning, because if I had just started styling, this could have been a real pain in the ass to deal with after styles. Okay, so we're gonna have nav here, and then here's our logo container with that little cog, which I think also needs to be swapped. Okay, so that would be here. So there's our logo and our nav. So these things would be use grid, keep to the left, right? Left, right, yes. And I think these are also going to have to be inside of a div. But maybe if we know that we're going to swap these two things, maybe this can be the div. Yeah, actually, that's a really good idea. So here's our menu icon right here with their button. Let's grab this. Oh, this is going to be so good. This is going to be so good. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. So we'll put that there. So there's our, and I'm going to take out header item because that is specific to that other section. And then here we'll take our settings and we're just going to swap these around. We'll put this right here, but we'll make sure that this also has this class. You're gonna leave all of this up to AI and ChatGPT, really? This is too fun. Why would you leave this up to an LLM? Why don't you want to do this yourself? Why don't you love this as much as I do? Okay, so let's say we'll call this the logo nav container. Now we have this section that we can position to the left. And then header is our parent, which will be display grid. We swapped our button and that little cog. And now our button, our menu item, which I don't even think we need this div anymore. That button can just survive on its own. It doesn't need a div. But look at how much better this is now for accessibility. Now we have our button, which comes immediately before our navigation. So that means we also need to put in a skip nav. So I would like, if somebody's tabbing through the page, I really believe that they need to hit this first, the logo and the site title. So then let's also put in nav, and we'll give this a class of skip nav. And this is also going to be Well, I'm not going to give it access hidden. It will get special styles though, that once it's activated, it'll be a button. So you can just skip right past the nav and go right into the header items. Yeah. So we'll say skip nav. Oh, and this has to have a link, obviously. Maker element. We're going to get all the links filled in. Don't worry. Don't worry. So now these are all sibling elements. So think about the smooth experience that is going to create for keyboard users who are tabbing through and screen readers who are reading out. That's going to be I think that's going to be a really good user experience for accessibility. So now we have this top header, and this will be the thing that sits to the right. So again, use grid, keep to the right. Oh yeah. Yeah. So then, I mean, so then everything else, I mean, that, I mean, we'll have a lot of control over the navigation with positioning. So I'm not worried about that. I don't know if we're going to use grid, honestly. Everything else then needs to be, so then this is our main body right here, right? So this is still going to be taking up space over here. I mean, I don't know. We might end up having to move this around a little bit again, because I'm unclear about, I mean, this is definitely going to have like fixed positioning, so grid might not matter. Igor is here and says, what do you think about vibe coding? Will it kill the front end profession, or will it just make the job hurt way harder for junior front end devs? What advice would you give to juniors right now? So I was totally against vibe coding for a really long time, and I'm changing my mind on it because I'm just listening to how people are doing vibe coding. So the way I think I always thought of vibe coding was that you just prompt an idea and you take the code and then you don't ever look at the code, right? And I don't think that's what it is. I mean, I think some people are doing that, right? It's sort of, I guess, democratized is the word that people are using. It's democratized coding for non-coders. But the more I think about it and the more I hear how other people are really using it, so I think of myself as a front-end developer who would like to build a mobile app. I think that I could do the front end work and vibe code the structural part of a mobile app, because I, quite frankly, can't be bothered to actually learn to do the mobile app myself, right? And it's not enough of a priority, but I could use ChatGPT or an LLM to help me with that, and that makes sense. I find it very difficult to believe that new people won't be entering this profession. I just don't believe that that's true right now. I don't think they'll be entering the profession in the way that they were. I mean, it's obviously going to be changing, and we will need fewer people to do more work. I think that that's true. I don't think that this is all played out yet. I think if you want to be a developer, you should be a developer, but just understand that it's going to be a lot different moving forward. It's not going to be like it was. I got my first job as a developer in 2014. It was very easy to get a job back then. Now, I don't know if it was just easy for me or if it was easy in general. When I entered the profession, I had a graduate degree and I was well into my 30s. I was in my late 30s and I had a lot of life experience and a lot of professional experience. I suspect it was easy for me to get a job because of that. I wasn't like a fresh grad with no life experience. I don't know. I'm just guessing. My best advice for juniors right now is it's the same as it's actually always been. You need a portfolio. I don't know how you convince anybody to hire you to do a job when you haven't shown them that you can do the job. If you've never had a job before and you've never done client work before, for the love of the traveling Mary, what is stopping you from building a personal website and using your own personal projects, your practice projects, whatever, from displaying them on that site? You have to do that. I don't know how you think you can get a job without doing that, especially if you're in front end. As a hiring manager, it was hard for me to be convinced. I mean, we would post jobs for a front end developer and I would get like these back end Python developers and they were like, front end looks really easy. I'm ready. I know I can do this job. And I'm like, you've shown me nothing that you know or understand front end. So if you are serious about doing it, it's going to be a long road, but it's not impossible. Christian Codes. Remember our friend Christian Codes? Let me see here. He got a job. Hang on, I'm going to pull up his channel. Right here. Christian Codes got a job. He is a brand new developer. Right here. A month ago, he did a stream letting people know that he got a job. And he's a brand new developer. He's an Air Force veteran. He set this goal. He was going to stream every single day, just practice, show the process of learning until he got a job. He got a job. I don't know exactly what he's doing, what his position is, or where he's working. I don't think he's, I haven't watched every single video since then, but he's a new developer who got a job. People still need developers to do this work. People still need humans to do this work. It's not going to be as easy to get a job as it used to be, but people still need human beings to do this work. So if you want to do it, you need a portfolio. You need something that sets you apart. I'm honestly not a very good person to give career advice in the sense of like how to write a resume or how to have a LinkedIn profile or how to write a cover letter. There are tons of videos online on how to do that, especially for tech jobs and especially for developers. So dig into that stuff and just be prepared for a lot of rejection. Okay. But if this is something that you really want to do, humans are still needed to do this work. So just settle in. If you are determined to get a job, you will find a job. But please build a portfolio, especially if you're on front end, you need a portfolio. So Andrew says, I have resisted vibe coding also until very recently when I started building my harness and training, fine tuning my own LLM. Now I have a pretty capable AI assistant. And For the love of the traveling Mary, gonna borrow this one. I heard that on, I watch a lot of law tubers. I heard that on, Melanie Little says that. So attorney Melanie Little. Let me see here. If you're into LawTube at all, which I am, I watch a lot of. I'm not really into like trials or excuse me, like true crime exactly, but I like LawTube. I like watching attorneys break down like uh watch trials and break down what's happening and read motions and stuff like that. Attorney Melanie Little says that all the time. One other thing, um what's the other thing? Kyle Cook. Kyle Cook from Web Dev. Kyle Cook from Web Dev Simplified. He had a great video here. Maybe it was on his main channel. Look at the main channel. This right here, stop paying for AI, the best local agentic coding workflow complete guide. I'm about halfway done watching this video. I'm gonna do this. I didn't even know you could do this. So this sounds like a great way to set up a local, like your own LLM. Yeah. So I mean, I do watch stuff like this and I'm absolutely paying attention. And I think vibe coding, I have absolutely changed my mind on vibe coding. I really resisted it for a long time because I just don't think that I understood it. But I think because I do have some ideas for things like mobile apps, but I have no interest in really learning the infrastructure of how to build a mobile app. Now I sort of get it. Like I could set up an LLM, turn it into a really good assistant like this, have it do like sort of that infrastructure part, but I could still do like the art direction and the front end development and make sure it's accessible, right? So, and I think that that's what we need to do. I think that that's how the job's going to change. If I was going to make a prediction based on the information that I have before me right now, I think that that's really how the job's going to change. Not that, and I'm not saying that this is every company is going to share this philosophy, but I think that most organizations are going to understand that human beings still need to be doing the work and looking over the work, maybe babysitting the work to an extent, but the human beings still need to be very much involved in doing this work. So I think the vibe coding, where maybe the LLM is kind of picking up the slack. For me, that might be JavaScript or some sort of infrastructure, but that I could still dig in and make sure the HTML and the CSS and the accessibility are all good, right? And Andrew says, yes, I use free and open weight models mostly, almost exclusively. I don't pay for Claude or ChatGPT. Yeah, I am moving in that direction as well. So I think it's going to be just in the next week or so here before I finally go do this. I just haven't had the time to dig through this. And let me see here. And Bikira, sorry if I butcher the username, says, thanks for the question and thanks for the answer. That was helpful in my opinion. Oh, good. I'm glad. You know me, I'm always happy to share an opinion. I'm never, ever short on words. So there's that. Okay. Let's get back to it. Give me 1 moment, please. Hold, please. All right, well, let's do some coding, shall we? And Defied is here. Happy Saturday. Welcome. Okay, so I'm going to put the focus prompt in the chat because I don't want people to have hurt feelings if I don't respond to chat comments right away. We're almost an hour in. I haven't written a lick of CSS yet. I'm a little sketchy on if we have our HTML structured the correct way, but we need to get going. We need to write some actual CSS here and start getting things styled. And we're going to adjust as needed, but I think we're headed in the right direction. So, okay. So let's see here. I'm just going to start with kind of the things that I always start with, right? Box sizing, border box, and then I'm just going to do some wildcards before and after. And we'll say box sizing, inherit. And then on the body, I always say padding 0, margin 0. Let's grab did we not grab? I know we got the fonts. This right here. So I really just want these right here for our open sans. And I'm going to set the default font weight to 400. And I'm going to say font size 100%, line height, line height 1.65. Line height is supposed to be a unitless number. I think the browser will accept pixels or rems or ems or something like that. It's really supposed to be a multiple of your font size. I like 1.65. Choose whatever works for you. Color, I'm going to set our default color to black and background color white. Just a good set of base styles. Okay, what else do we want to do? So the browser always gives figure elements a lot of extra margin, so I'm just going to remove that, kind of a global style. We want to make our images responsive, so I'm just going to say max width 100%, height auto, and images, of course, end up getting a lot of styles. SVGs by default are inline elements. When I actually took the time to look that up, maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. And I actually took the time to look it up and see that they were display inline. And I started setting them as display block, sort of as a global setting. It changed everything related to SVGs. They just got so much easier to style. I'm going to say width 3 rems, height 3 rems. That's just to kind of get them under control, just kind of wrangle them in. This will definitely change. I also do 2 things. I say fill blue and I say stroke red. ChatGPT has been trying to convince me to leave the current color attribute in line with the SVGs, and I understand why it's doing that. My personal preference is I like to do the fill and the stroke myself, but sometimes I don't know which is which. So if I set the fill to blue and the stroke to red, and an SVG comes up and it needs to be styled, if it's blue, I know it's a fill. If it's red, I know it's a stroke. That's just my own little habit. So now, if we save this, our document's going to look completely different. Look at this. It just wrangles everything in. Here's all of our stuff now. So just makes this look more usable. We know what's what. So there's that. Okay. So here's a few global styles. Same with buttons. I don't do too much globally. Buttons are by default display inline block. I'm going to leave it as display inline block. But I am going to take out the padding. I'm going to take out the border. And I'm going to take out the background color. Just make it transparent. So now they don't really look like buttons anymore, and that's just going to give me back the control that I want. What else? Okay, so we need something called access hidden, which is basically our screen reader text. I don't have that memorized, so let's go steal it from another GitHub repository. Let's grab it from our last project. Also, let's just take a little look-see, shall we, at what some of our previous global styles were. Let me catch the corner. There we go. Okay. So we did more global styles here for figures and images. I'm not going to do that now. Oh, cursor pointer is a good one for the button. We'll do some global styles for our heading elements. So we'll say H1, H2, H3, H4. Font weight 700. So I always take the line height down on headings because when it wraps, it just looks better with a little less line height. Okay, so we'll do font weight 700. That's pretty beefy. I don't know what that's going to look like with Open Sans, but we can adjust it later if we need to. Line height 1.25 works pretty well. I've also changed that sometimes to just 1.1. The browser by default will give margins, put margins on the top and bottom of a heading. So I usually remove that and just change it to 1 rem on the bottom. Links. Yes, let's make sure that we have some default styles for our links. Do we have a blue? We have a navy. Let's find a nice blue color. Do we have one in our... Do we have like a link color here someplace that we can use? I don't think so. We could just take one of these and make them blue. We could just do this blue color right here as our link color. So this is like the... But that's not going to work against a white background. That's only going to be accessible against this. Should we just make this blue color our link color, which is our light navy? And then we'll give it an underline, which is how you will know that it's a link. Yeah, we can adjust that later if we need to. So I'm going to do our light navy color as our default link color. Oh, and access hidden. Angela, focus. Where is it here? Okay. SR only, right here. Last time I called it screen reader only. I'm going to go back to calling it access hidden. That's what I used to call it. So this is screen reader friendly CSS. It will hide whatever text you want to hide or whatever element you want to hide on the desktop, but it will still make it accessible by a screen reader. So really important. Okay. What was the other thing I was thinking of? What was I just talking about before I got to this? I can't remember. Buttons. Oh, links. Links. Yeah. right here. Okay. This is kind of my standard way that I style links. Yeah. So we'll just say text decoration color. And I'm going to do light navy. Text decoration thickness. We'll say 2 pixels. And then text, I think it's text underline offset. 3 pixels. Color is light navy. And then what would we transition? So if it's got the underline by default, when we hover, focus hover active, the text decoration color would become transparent. So we would transition the text decoration color, 300 milliseconds, ease in out, and the color. You could use the keyword all. I've just gotten into the habit of typing them out. 300 milliseconds timing, that's just timing that I personally like. Ease in out, that's just a transition that I personally like. You can use whatever works for you or whatever you like. Focus, hover, active are the pseudo classes that I like to style for buttons and for links. So we're transitioning the text decoration color to transparent, and the color, well, I guess the color we're not transitioning, aren't we? We're just transitioning the line. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Is there anything else here that we want to deal with now as a global style? I don't think so. Lots of button styles. We can deal with that when we get to it. I mean, we're going to be styling buttons probably today anyways, so. Okay, I don't think we need this anymore. Okay. So now let's get into the meat and potatoes. So header, I'm going to make display grid. Grid template columns. Whoops. Grid template columns. So what do we think? Like 1 to 5? Looks like it's about 20%. So 1 FR, 5 FR. I don't know how this is going to work. Yeah, I guess that works. Okay. And then let's start to get this under control. Let's also make sure that this button, I guess it doesn't matter. Let's start to style. So we know that this is on the left. Let's start to style this top part here first. So this is the, whoops. This is the top header. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm just going to make these display flex and let them. Let's try display flex. Flex, flow, row, no wrap. Justify content, or justify content, I guess. What's the default stretch? Okay, what's going on here? Oh. Here's our header. Here's our logo container. Here's our top header. And then the main header is way down at the bottom. Yeah, so we may want to put this inside this. And yeah, it definitely can't be stretch, can it? Let's see here. Let's move this off to the side. Yeah, it definitely can't be stretch. So the align items is stretch. So the align items has to be flex start. But also this is way down at the bottom, right there. Here and here. So this probably needs to be inside this container. And this is also, can we just do justify content? Let's start. Yeah, that's not going to matter because those other items are down at the bottom. That's why. So I just want to comment. I'm going to comment this out just for a second. Yeah, I got to think about this. How did I do the 30 days of vanilla JavaScript site? Isn't this like literally exactly the same thing that I did here? What did I do here? So here we had the header, the main, and then I had the navigation inside the main container. But I had the button for the navigation last, right here. So it naturally came before the navigation. That actually might be a good way to do it. And then we still had a skip nav right here, right immediately after the H1. So we just skipped right to the content, which was right here. That might be a better way to do it. Because with the nav way up here, and then you always, yeah. The only different, so that would mean then that the header would actually only be these things, and that these things here would be inside the main container. But that this would come immediately before it. Yeah, that is going to be a better way to do it, isn't it? Okay, well, this is part of the process, right? I can't be the only one who has to really sit and think about the best way to structure some of these things. So here's our main. So we want our button and our navigation to go inside the main. I'm going to collapse that. And then we would want, I think we would want I'm a little unsure about where to put the button, so I'm going to make this access hidden for now because I think that we can figure that out later. So I'm not going to worry about the button for now. So we're just going to hide it. So here's our logo container, which is going to be on the left. And then here's this top header, which is going to be on the right, which is that top strip. And then this can also be inside the main. And we can still call it like main. We could give it a header. You can have a header inside the main. We can absolutely do that. So we could still make this, oh, main header, hello, inside the main header. Get it? That works. So here's main. We know that our button and our nav need to be on the left. We could do this. And then we can change this. This can also be a header. I think I want to make sure I have the correct one here. Yeah. Yeah, that works. So this button just needs to at least come before the navigation in the flow. If it at least comes before the navigation in the flow, then that's all that matters, because I don't want to deal with tab indexing and changing the tab index value with JavaScript. I think that's messy. I think it's a slippery slope. I don't think it's a good idea. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about this button for now. I just want to get this layout looking the way it should. So this should really change how this looks now. Yes. This and this, these are lined up now. And then we have our individual items, and then everything else is inside this main container. So we have this, and we have this, which is down at the bottom because we haven't positioned those yet. Beautiful. That's exactly what I wanted. What's going on here? Okay, nothing I care about. Okay, very good. Let's keep going. Okay, what are we going to do next? So this logo right up here is navy blue. So let's do top header. Okay, we'll do right here. So this is the logo nav container. Background color is going to be navy. Our color is going to be white. And then if this container has any links, we're going to remove the underline. So text, decoration, none. Oh, but they need to be white also. Color, white. Okay. And then top header right here. I still think display flex is a good way to do this. We'll kind of let everything just naturally take its shape. And if we need to go in and define, although could we just go in and be like, if we did grid, could we just go in and say, make these like a line of, how would we do this? Would we say 1, 1, 1, 2 FR, 2 FR, 1 FR? Is that literally what you do in grid? You just line them up and say how many columns that you want them to be. Like you're just declaring fractions. It's difficult with grid sometimes after a decade of 12 column layouts and thinking in 12 column layouts. So what if we did 1, 2, 3, 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR, 2 FR. Let's try it. I don't know if I'm doing this right. So 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR, 2 FR, and then what would this be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 2 and then 1. Did that actually work? I think it kind of did. So let's get these items under control. Should these be divs or buttons? I feel like these should be buttons. Oh, we did make these buttons. Okay. So these are the header items. I guess there's no reason why these couldn't have a container around them, right? I feel like this should also be a button. So let's make this a button. Button icon. ARIA label. No, ARIA label. Settings. It doesn't need an extra span. The SVG is ARIA hidden true. Okay, I think that works. So these header items. See, I'm just starting to think that they don't need their own container, but maybe they do if they need extra padding. Is this entire thing a button? Oh, I think I did that because this is a button. And I felt like there needed to be a container around it. So I was treating everything else the same way. As long as it has a tap target, that's all I really care about. An accessible tap target. Okay, so the header items, let's just start with these SVGs. So we're going to make them, I guess, blue. So these have their red, which makes their stroke. Let's bring down the width a little bit. So maybe 2 rems with the height of also 2 rems. We'll change the stroke to navy. That looks better. Let's style these little spans. Well, let's make sure that these have a little bit of, maybe we want to flexbox this header item. It'll be a lot easier to get it aligned in the middle. Justify content center. Align items center. Okay. Which means we don't need any padding now. And our buttons, we'll adjust the padding around the buttons. And then here's our notification count, button count. So let's style that. So that means that the button is going to be, button icon is going to be position relative. And I'm going to give this a z-index of 0. We could also just maybe transform it, but I'm going to do this. And then the count is position absolute. The bottom is 1 rem. How does this look? I'm sure we'll adjust this. And then we'll do the z-index of 1. Those are definitely going to be pixel values, but that's about right for now. We also want this to be display block. We'll give this a width of, well, how wide are they naturally? 9 pixels by 18 pixels. So we know a rem is 16 pixels. A half a rem is 8 pixels. So let's just make this 1 rem by 1 rem. We'll give this some border radius of 50%. The background color for the notification, here's where we're going to probably get a little more specific. So the notification count, this background color is going to be red. And we know this is going to have a border, we'll say 2 pixels, solid, and this will be the pink. And then we also know that we want this to be a color of white. And we might want to make that probably going to want to make that, whoops, a little bit smaller. So we might want to make this text size, font size, maybe 0.9 rems. I wouldn't want to go much smaller. So we probably maybe also want to just give this a smudge of padding, 0.25 rems. No, padding's not going to work. We can give padding to Well, if we're putting a width and a height on it, we just want to add more here, right? There we go. We're kind of pushing our luck with 0.8 rems, but I think technically that's okay. It's 12.8 pixels. We'll review and make sure the 12.8 pixels is technically okay. I think it is. We've done that before, but I don't remember what the minimum size is. So I'm gonna fudge it for now. And then we also have a, what is this, messages count right here. So this is going to be green. So this is going to be green, and this is going to be mint. I like it. This is obviously not responsive yet. There's a lot to do here to make this responsive. Also, we're zoomed in. But this is going to look really good. I mean, I think this is already looking really good. I mean, it's all, this is already looking pretty good. So these are not quite square. I guess I'm not worried about these being perfect squares. I'm okay with them just sort of taking up whatever space they need to take up, right? Yeah. Okay, so what do we have next? So we have this language icon. Button icon. But clearly we have text and we have an SVG. So how do we want to style these? If we make the button icons display flex, I think that would work. It would be an easy way to get the word and the caret next to each other, and I don't think it would impact anything else inside the button that wasn't position absolute. So I think we can get away with that, and worst case scenario, we can just add an extra class here if that doesn't work. So this can be position relative, and they can be display flex. And we'll say flex flow, row, no wrap. I don't think we need to justify content, but we do want to align items center. And again, for anything that has just one item, it won't matter. We don't want a ton of gap, maybe 0.5 rems, but I think that'll line it up. Yeah, that lines it up for us. So let's make sure. So this is the header item SVG. Which is kind of controlling everything, all the SVGs. So if my instinct is to make this little caret smaller, but it would make all the SVGs smaller, but I don't know, maybe it's fine. That is a little smaller. You know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to shorten this gap though. Let's just keep going and get the rest of these things lined up. We also need a picture of Heidi. I think this is okay. Yeah, I think that's okay. That tap target is not big enough. So I think that we need to give our button icons a little extra padding. There we go. Now we have a tap target, but it's inside this container. So if we had to put a color behind there, so let's just say for the sake of argument, if we had to put a background color in here, we'll just use pink as an example. Now we're still inside. Yeah, this is a good decision. So now these are in their own containers, but they could still have a background color. And the button doesn't take up the whole container. So yeah, that was a good decision. Okay. Good. All right, next section. This right here. So this also needs to be, this is one of the advantages of using Flexbox. You can nest Flexbox in a grandparent, a parent, and a child, but you really can't do that with grid. So using grid as the top level and then Flexbox for everything else inside, that's a power move. We like that. So the mega container search container. So I'm going to use class mega container, which really is mega menu, but it kind of works for us in this case. We're also going to display flex. And we're going to flex flow, row, no wrap. We do want justify content. Whoops. Justify content. We want space between, pushes the first and the last items to the very edge. Align items center, because by default it's stretch. There we go. Stretches puts them right on their respective end, beginning and end. Now, so here's our button. Our button is just fine. Here's our form. We are hiding the label with screen reader friendly text. Here's our input. We'll go ahead and put in our placeholder text. All right. And how is that supposed to look? So it's got a little tiny border radius. It's got a lot of padding. I'm not going to resize it. I think it's fine the width that it is, so I'm not going to give it a width. So the form, search form, search form, I'm going to say position relative, and I'm going to give this a z-index of 0. And then we want the button, I'm going to say search form button icon. Honestly, it's probably the right size. We just have to add padding to the input. So we'll say position absolute, top 50%, right 1 rem. And then I'm going to use transform, translate y, negative 50%. That will center it vertically. And then our input type search needs some padding. Maybe a rem? I don't know. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then we're going to change the border color, right? Because it's a little grayer. Oh, I think this also has a little bit of a grayish background. We can do that. So we'll make sure that this is this has a background. And I'm going to give this gray color. We'll make sure the background color is white. And this has a border radius. What, 5 pixels? Yeah. And then let's make sure that I think we can, well, this is, we'll just give this top header a background color. And I'm not going to color pick it. I'm just going to use a light gray color that I have. I'm going to use this light gray. Yeah, that's perfect. Look at that. It's almost like it's almost like I've done this before. I love this. Okay, so we also need a border, something that's kind of a separator here, right? So I think the way I'm going to do this is just for header item. I will put a border on the right, but not on the last item, and we'll put a border on the bottom. So we'll say border right 1 pixel solid, and I'm going to do just the regular gray color. We'll definitely need to do a little spacing adjustment here, but I'm going to make sure that on the header item last of type, we don't have a border. Say last, do we want last of type or last child? I think last of type is fine. Last of type, border, right, none. And then I think we want border on the bottom also. Border, bottom, 1 pixel, solid, gray. And then let's adjust this a little bit. So instead of space between, we could do space around, and it'll kind of, yeah, I think that's a little bit better. That looks really slick. I don't know though, maybe that's not enough. Maybe we do want space between. And we can just put some padding in here. So what if we just did padding 0 on the top and bottom, but 1 rem on the left and right? Yeah, actually that looks good. Wow. Okay, we need a picture for little Heidi girl. What time is it? We got time. Let me find a picture. I have so many pictures of Heidi. Let's see here. I know I do. Where are they? User profile, assets, Heidi the Sheltie. Okay, we'll size this. Perfect. All right, what's going on here? So we do need a, we do need a caret here? We have one here, but I don't see it. Is there a button? Oh, is it just getting squished out of the way? I feel like we might not be giving this enough room. So let's take this down a little bit. So maybe instead of 6, we could do 5. Okay, well, let's get this styled because this is getting squished into oblivion. So, but also maybe we could say something like 4. Is that better or worse? Does it need to go higher? Hard to tell. Okay, I don't know. Let's do this. So this is the user profile figure. So we'll go here. User profile, class of figure. So I'm going to say width 100%, height. I usually do auto. Last time that didn't really work for me though. We'll say aspect ratio 1. And then user profile image, width 100%, height 100%, and then object fit cover. But also, I think instead of a percentage, I think I should just be saying so maybe 75 pixels, not rems. There we go. Oh, that should be smaller. Maybe like 50. Yeah. And then let's give that a little bit of border radius. I'm going to do that here. Like 5, whoops. Like 5 pixels. Yeah, I think that looks fine. So I don't think that, so I'm on a big monitor. I mean, I'm on a 27-inch monitor, but let's just go back to what we had. It's our mega menu. Mega container right here. Yeah, I like this. I think this could be, I think that's a little, Let's try 0.5. Yeah. You know, the more I think about it, since this comes, I mean, would this come immediately before the navigation up here? So this is another menu, and it comes immediately before the navigation. I think this should be our menu button right here. It was a little unclear to me what all of these buttons actually did anyways. I mean, I have a mock-up with like a ton of like layers and drop downs. Let's just make this our nav. Yeah, our nav button. And I think it would be cool if it was always visible on desktop, and maybe you could press it and just hide the nav on demand. Let's see if we can make that work, but I don't think we need to. We have so many different menus and drop downs here. I can tell people are asking me to look at the chat. I am going to look at the chat today, but I also need to have a little focused work time. So do not be offended if I'm not responding to the chat right away. Give me one moment. Hold please, and I will chat with the chat. Loki is here. Welcome, Loki. And Loki says I'm late. You're never late. You're right on time, my friend. And Loki says I did web development in my first year of programming very deeply, but I forgot. And so I'm repeating now the conversation that Malik had. Understandable, perfect day to relearn. I probably won't because I've gone other paths already, like low-level programming. I know a ton of languages and programming stacks, though. I went deep in each one, but I forgot. I know probably like 10 languages. I couldn't even name all in a sprint. And Loki's asking, do I do this as a fun project, meaning me, and help other people to learn though, like recreating websites, what it seems like to me, basically reverse engineering a website. So really the purpose of this channel is to just promote first and foremost front-end development, vanilla, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Those are the three things that the browser renders natively. You don't need Node, you don't need a package manager, you don't need a compiler, you don't need anything but your text editor and index.html, style.css, script.js. That's all you need to build a website or a web app. You can do it with just those three things and without a bunch of frameworks and libraries and compilers. Those things are not bad. My only point is to promote vanilla and to remind people that I think vanilla still counts and it's still important and it will serve you in your career to remember how to do those things, to remember how the internet works, right? And then, so it's practice and it's vanilla and it's like, if you want to be good at something, you have to do it. You have to practice it. So if you have a desire to remember how to be good at web development or good at building web pages, you have to practice. That the whole point of this for me was to practice. My skills felt wildly out of date. I was in my job for 7 years. I was not starting new projects, so I wasn't really giving myself the chance to refine my process anymore. I had forgotten how to do a lot of things and I wasn't practicing enough. My skills just weren't sharp and I wanted to change that. So I started this channel and I started streaming and it was all about just practicing. And front-end developers, generally, we build from mockups. We are given requirements and mockups and designs, and we have to build those. We have to make those happen in the browser, right? That's the way it's done. So courses, tutorials, those are not bad things. They introduce you to new topics, new ideas. They solve specific problems, but the real learning and the real work comes from practice. So that's really the whole point of it. So that's that. We might be very close to wrapping this up today. I think this is a great start for today. And I think we should take our navigation button and move it right to the end of the header. Right in here. And I think that's the perfect spot for this. And let's take out our access hidden. And then this can be our nav. This can control our nav. We could even take this and move, well, no, we can't. I don't want to move it to the beginning, right? Unless we changed the order. If we change the order with Flexbox, but we're not using Flexbox, we're using Grid. We're just going to have to keep, playing with this. I'm not quite sure how this is going to play out, but we have a great start. I think we have a really good start here. So, and I'm on a big monitor, so if we were to, usually 150 or so is a decent desktop size. So I think this looks pretty good. I think tomorrow we will get this part styled here. We'll get our skip nav styled and we'll style the actual navigation. And then we'll get the other part of our header, which is now the header for the main container up here, and we'll start styling that as well. But I think this is a great start. Let's go ahead and push this. Styles for the header. All right. What do we think? I love it. I think it looks great. It's going to be fun. So come back tomorrow and hang out with me. And we're going to keep working on this. Thank you to everybody who came to hang out today. We had Caffeine Cowboy, Clash of Clans Legend, Zokiel, who I think is from Paris. Andrew Irwin was here. Andrew, happy to have you. Igor was here. Malay was here. Hello, welcome. Defied was here. Loki was here. And of course, Malik Robinson was here, our mod in the chat. And Monique Robinson was here, also a mod in the chat. Malik and Monique, they are not related. It's just a coincidence. And Andrew says, have a good day. Did you get my email about AI agents? I didn't. Let me check. Hang on. I'll look right now. Your emails have been going to my spam, but I put you on the list. So I don't think, let me check. No, you went to spam again. Hang on. Not spam. How do I make sure that you're not going to spam? Hang on. Okay. You are now starred in my email. I will look at your email. Sorry about that. I have it now. Okay. Everybody, have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Do me a favor. If you haven't yet, would you would you be so kind as to like this video? Helps the algorithm, helps get it pushed out to more people who might be interested in this type of thing. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm here 4 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. We just practice, we have a little fun. We keep our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript skills fresh. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Oh, and Andrew says, I run my own server. It is an issue. I was going to say, I don't usually have this many problems with email going to spam so consistently. And Gmail is very consistently putting your emails in my spam. So thank you for letting me know that you did send me an email. I gave it a little star, and I will try to keep an eye on that. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in doing a collaboration with other developers. I don't know what that would be. I think it sounds fun. Andrew, hopefully it's okay to say this. You told me that maybe you were thinking about starting your own channel. I would encourage anybody who's even thinking about starting a YouTube channel or streaming, do it. Absolutely do it. 100% do it. You don't need to be an expert. You can be a beginner. People love to watch the process of people learning and practicing. This has been my experience. I am not the best. I'm pretty good at HTML and CSS, but look at the JavaScript journey over the last few months in particular. People like to watch the process of learning, especially with AI doing so much of the coding for. I mean, like, look at what's happening on X, Reddit, Discord, all the conversations around just letting AI do it for us. People still like to see people coding from scratch. So if you're thinking about it, 100% do it. You don't need a lot to do it. I use OBS. I have a microphone. I have a Amazon ring light that cost me about $10. That's it. That's all you need. You don't need that much. It's pretty low overhead. So I would highly recommend. And of course, if anybody ever had any questions about anything, I would be happy to answer them. Not that I'm an expert, but a couple years into it now. So, okay, everybody, have a great rest of your day wherever you are, and I will see you tomorrow. Mwah. Bye.